This is Major Label Debut. This is the podcast about major label debuts. I'm Graham Wright. We have a lot of cool people on this podcast. If you hadn't noticed already, it's some pretty impressive names. Some people that I've been really excited to talk to. And yes, also always a little bit nervous to talk to. You know, you see the names of these incredible, accomplished, cool, impressive musicians on the schedule. And I think it's only human to be a little bit nervous about how I'm going to look next to these titans of art. And I'm getting better at it, I think. But all of that goes to say that I don't know if I have ever been more apprehensive, more fizzy in my body than I was right before almost 1 year ago when we welcomed Colin Newman of Wire. Wire are a important, influential, and iconic band. Colin Newman is the voice of that band. And Pink Flag, the record, their major label debut, the record that we spoke about last time with Colin, is like austere and sharp. You know, it's knife sharp and drum tight. And I think I suspected that Colin was going to be similarly no bullshit. And if you've spent any time listening to me talk on this show, you know that I love to bullshit. It's maybe my main and only skill as a broadcaster or podcaster, as it were. And so I think I probably feared deep down that, you know when David Bowie in Extras just starts making up that really mean song about Ricky Gervais? I think I maybe feared something like that happening with Colin Newman and myself. Instead, as you know, if you've listened to the episode, and if you haven't, I really recommend you go back and check it out. Colin was amazing, smart, passionate, thoughtful, well-spoken, and incredibly generous with his time and his energy and his wisdom and his brain. And so was Malka Spigel, who is Colin's partner in life and in art. Together, the two of them have played in Githead as well as Immersion. And we just had one of the most fun, interesting, surprising conversations that we had on the podcast to date, so much so that when the mic stopped rolling at the end, we all of us agreed that we should do it again. And I'm happy to tell you that time has come. That's right. Today on Major Label Debut, it's Colin Newman and Malka Spigel, the sequel. And this one's fun because the first time we talked about, as the MLD premise sort of dictates, we talked about Wire's major label debut, Pink Flag. But since then, we've really let ourselves stray pretty far afield from the let's only talk about major label debut records philosophy. And we knew that we wanted to have Colin and Malka back on just to sort of rap about life in art. I guess if this conversation that you're about to hear has any one theme, it's that. It's about living a meaningful life as creative people first and foremost, and putting that first and prioritizing that, and what that means in, what that has meant over the preceding decades till now, and what it means now, and what it's like to live it. And I just, once again, and even more so this time, found Colin and Malka to be so insightful and wise, and their compass is just, it's perfectly aligned to me. They know where they're going. They know what they want. They know what's important to them. And they know how to, not just to chase it, but to hold it within them and to share it with the people that want to hear it. And just, I don't know, everything that I think you would hope for in a life as a creative person is exactly what they seem to have built a life around. We talked about that. We talked about all kinds of stuff. Colin is really opinionated. Malka is really opinionated. I am just really happy to be along for the ride, and what a ride it was. So without further ado, I'm so pleased to throw to the sequel. It's Colin Newman, Malka Spigel, major label debut. We're doing it again. Here it comes. congratulations on the record, I guess, to start out with. I loved it.
Yeah, you can lay it on as thick as you like.
Great. I will. I'm going to turn off my own video. A little treat for me. We're now audio only as the gods of broadcast originally intended.
Yeah, we're used to audio only. And I think, there is kind of an obsession with video these days being the kind of thing that somehow it's more real. It's not necessarily more real, it's just different.
We're so used to look at our devices that everything has to be visual somehow, I guess.
I felt in my body when I turned off just my own video. I haven't been able to see either of you since we started speaking a minute ago. I could just see myself, and I turned off my own video, and I just felt my presence in our conversation increase slightly. My ears made up for the lack of, and I'm staring at myself, so it's just exclusively vanity, which can't possibly be good for the, listening to your guests, which is nominally what I'm here to do. And thank you for being guests again.
Well, thank you for having us. And I'm just to let you know what's going on here. We are looking at a timeline in Pro Tools where audio waveforms are gradually forming themselves as we speak.
We're quite used to watching that kind of visual image doing our radio show. So
This is probably a good place to start because I wanted to start by talking about the new Immersion record, which is stylized on its cover as WTF with 2 question marks. But you just mentioned before we turned on the mics that you're referring to it as what the fuck. Is that correct?
Well, it is what the fuck.
It is. And the 2 question marks feels emphatically appropriate to the message of both the title and the record itself. It's the only suitable response maybe to the times in which we live.
Yeah, and it works on so many different levels. I mean, you can see it as kind of largely political, but, Malka and I have also reached a certain age and we're kind of looking at ourselves and thinking also, what the fuck?
I never thought of it this way.
Well,
it was mainly about turning the news on and things are getting more and more absurd and crazy. But I guess, we are old. What the fuck?
Yeah, it just can be. It's strange how it came about, actually, as both the cover and the title of the album. During the Nanocluster tour we did with Sus, Bob from Sus started to pick up on the fact that Malka uses that phrase a lot in almost any situation. There was a moment on the last show, which we played in New York, and we were in the dressing room, Bob just looked at Malka and just said, what the fuck? And then they both just burst out into laughter. And it was like the kind of moment of the end of the tour, of the kind of realization of what we've been doing for the last period and everything. And it was somehow fed into the titling. Malka really wanted to have that image as the cover. And that image is, it's weird. It's a kind of a weird Japanese character on a window ledge in Brooklyn. And just, you can look at the cover and think, what the fuck? Why did they put that on the cover? But it's just, I think it just works on many different levels. And I think we've developed a way of talking about our music and within our music, which is quite direct. It's not this unpoetic. It's just that, the days of alluding to stuff have kind of passed.
I really agree. I find myself working on music that I've been tooling around with for a couple of years that 2 years ago felt, very relevant. And I really thought, okay, I finally managed to sort of plant my flag and say what I feel about what's going on. And then events just outstrip so quickly any kind of, obtuse angle you might try to come at them from, that directness increasingly feels like the only really reliable way to get at that kind of artistic truth for which we're all sort of searching.
Yeah, and to speak to other people, saying you're not alone, we are all in it together, and we have to kind of fight it, really, whether with art or other means.
And sonically, too, I'm sure our listeners are noticing the high fidelity audio quality coming out of your studio there. And the first time I listened to the record, it really startled me a bit how clear and unaffected the vocals are. And, I think that maybe less confident people in their directness would be inclined to take those kind of vocals and drench them in reverb or delay or vocoder or, dress them up one way or another to sort of give it a little cool zhuzh that also undercuts some of that nowhere to hide directness. And I think it is so exciting that you didn't do any of that. Your vocals on the record don't sound so dissimilar from the conversation we're having right now.
A lot of it is just talking. I mean, a lot of what I do is just talking.
Yeah.
But I think that comes as almost it's an artistic choice. It's also about what sits in the music. If you're having voice, I mean, I think, with Immersion specifically, we're at bass and electronic duo. So things like voice and guitars are added extras. Mm-hmm. So if you're having them, you don't want to obscure them. If you're going to add a voice, then the voice has got to be there.
Also, it's about not hiding, or not covering or behind fog. And it's all direct, the words and the production, I would say. So, yeah.
I have always found that one of the last steps in mixing a record is taking most of the reverb off that you've sort of had on there, smudging together all the parts you're not certain about. And this is the sort of the farthest extent of that. So you mentioned that you're in your studio speaking to me, looking at the waveform on the timeline, as I currently am as well. And something that I've been really curious about listening to the record, listening to Swimming in Sound, your radio show, following you both on social media, is how, because you work together, you share your lives together, I'm wondering how much time you spend sitting looking at these waveforms as part of your broadcast, as part of your creative process, as part of your lives, and how is there a membrane between Colin and Malka upstairs at home and Colin and Malka in the studio at work, or is it all just one continuum?
Yeah, I think it's all just one continuum.
Yeah, I mean, obviously when we're in the studio, we kind of deal with it directly, but we might be upstairs or we might be having a dinner and we start talking about, what we're working on and what should be the next thing. So it's all mixed, really. I
mean, the thing that keeps coming back to me, and it was something that we came with post-pandemic, was that it would be a good idea in general for us to do what we like with who we like, or the people that we like. And I think that increasingly is what we do.
Whether it's sound people or people we tour with,
or just friends that we hang out with. It's just, I think that you can. We are able to make choices. I think it's the other message in what we say is it's not just everything is just shit. It's we can make choices in this situation, and it's those choices are increasingly important, actually. And the choice that we make is to do things together. I think it's quite important for us as people and as artists. It's just it works that we do things together, and so we kind of do everything together, really.
And it's amazing how many years you put up with doing things with people and the way you do it, that you realize you are not happy, but you're just doing it because that's a reality. And once you discover that you can do it the way we do it, it's hard to go back, really.
I mean, obviously we are talking from a somewhat privileged situation, and anyone who works in a paid job is probably thinking, well, I hate my job. But if I don't do my job, then I can't pay my rent or my mortgage or whatever. So I understand that to be true.
But I think increasingly, even for a lot of musicians, certainly young musicians, and also I could feel it, towards the end of my band, it started to feel more like there was a boss and a structure. It was, and that boss and structure was sort of the algorithm in general. And it did feel more and more like I was shackled to this sort of routine and collection of obligations that had very little to do with why I had hitched my wagon to the rock and roll train in the first place. And so certainly I suspect a lot of other musicians listening am really in equal parts envious and inspired by what you've both managed to create, where, you can create and distribute and market and sell and sort of farm to table your art in a way that seems entirely on your own terms. I mean, that is, it's more than a privilege. I think it's a real blessing, but it's also one that you've made for yourselves.
Sure, it's not easy necessarily, We don't have a manager. We are our own record label, so sometimes we feel like we don't have the power, like people work with bigger labels or whatever. But by now we want to do it on our own terms, and that's the way we can do it.
Yeah, I think it's really important. I suffer less from that. I mean, I've dealt with every level of this industry, and there's such a lot about this industry which puts both the people who make the art and the people who consume the art as the least important people in the process. That's just the reality of the modern music industry. So any pushing back, anything of saying, no, we're going to do it this way, and not to be governed by algorithms. I mean, we are building an audience. That seems crazy to imagine that we are doing that, but we are building an audience. And I suspect a lot of that is coming on word of mouth, actually. It's not Spotify algorithms. Yeah, we have better Spotify numbers than we had 2 years ago, but that's I don't know, that's not, it's not massive, but I feel like, we seem to be able to play to more people. We seem to be able to play more and in different places. And it's kind of interesting. I mean, it's quite exciting.
But it's kind of also because we were willing to say, okay, we're starting from the bottom again in some ways.
Yeah.
Like a young band. We're just going to not feel like, oh, I'm too big for this space, or, I'm not getting the press I used to,
It would be easy to assume that for a band like yours who are doing it on your own terms, that you wouldn't be on Instagram, you wouldn't be on Facebook, you'd be invisible on social media, but that's not the case. And I've really cherished following, since our last conversation, I followed you both on the socials media, and it's amazing to see people who are using it, but continuing through everything to use it on their own terms. And, I don't see you on there doing the songs and the dances or doing the front-facing videos or whatever the best practices that you're supposed to employ are. You seem like you're using it as a creative outlet and a way to spread the word to the extent that that's achievable. And I think just that alone feels modestly revolutionary to me compared to everyone else I follow.
It's fascinating. I just hadn't seen it that way. I mean, my personal attitude towards social media is it's advertising. I don't feel like I owe anybody anything on, in terms of, I don't want to share what I have for breakfast.
But artistically, we do it what feels right to us. So, we like things that look good. We like to make interesting videos. We do everything on the same level. And it's all our choice, our artistic choice.
I think a lot of, especially younger people, are becoming quite disillusioned and fed up with social media.
Yes,
I just think that they need to not have that expectation from it. It's not going to. It doesn't give you anything actually. You're just the product.
Yes,
your data is being used by a vast corporation that doesn't give a flying fuck about you. That's the reality of social media. So I just use it for what I can get out of it. And if people, it's nice to have people comment on the radio show, and I always respond if they have something, to say other than, I like this record you made 40 years ago or something like that. I mean, there's not really much to say to that. But, somebody talks about something that we played on the show or something like that. Yeah, it's nice to respond and have a kind of conversation there. But, I mean, I don't feel like I'm giving any of myself in particular. I'm just being a human being, like you might talk to someone in a shop or something like that. Or,
Yeah.
It's hard not to be the slave of the social media. It's hard not to be sucked into it. So you have to kind of keep resisting in a way.
This business is so, as we all have learned time and time again, so inclined towards chasing the latest shiny trend. And if it looks like there's a little bit of money to be had over there, let's all, like, when you watch 5-year-old kids playing football and they're just, the ball moves in the center of a sort of magnetized scrum of children around the field. That might be different in England than it is in Canada. We don't know how to play soccer here. But social media is so much faster that it's just really underscoring how much of the music industry is just flitting from trend to trend to trend. And it'll be, more than one in a day sometimes, it feels like. And so to treat it like you are, like just a human to human advertising interaction, there's like a stability to it that is pleasing, amidst all the chaos and the running back and forth, if that makes sense.
Well, yeah, I do think that also that kind of endless chasing of trend and youth and all of that stuff basically serves the industry. I mean, the industry prefers artists to be young and stupid, basically, to be in a situation where they're just desperate to be heard and they will do or give anything to be heard. And as soon as they get old enough or wise enough to figure out they didn't get paid and actually they've been severely ripped off, the industry is done with them. And as for artists our age, as far as the industry is concerned, we're better off dead, because then they only have to deal with, the next generation of people who don't know anything about it. So therefore they can just continue to pay the minimum amount of money over to just retain catalogue they don't have rights to anyway.
Which you've dealt with time and time again as you've sort of collected the rights to the Wire records in your older work, right?
Yeah, no, it's a thing. I mean, there's a big, the next big stage is just about to happen, because we are, we're going to be dealing with what is now owned by BMG, who used to be, who bought Mute, and I mean they are just useless on almost any level that you can possibly imagine. And like all of those companies, and I'm not just talking about majors, there's also plenty of independent labels like that, they just lie. They lie about what they do. They lie about what their intention is. They'll say anything to avoid having a spotlight put on them as to what their actual practice is. And a lot of it's illegal.
Also a record label that just shake off responsibility. They work with musicians for years and then they suddenly sell everything to a bigger label and the artists don't count. They're not even told that it's going to be sold. Suddenly they are like someone's property or whatever.
I mean, I'll give you one example of BMG.
Please.
I've been trying for probably the best part of 15 years to get an answer from them as to where the assets, that is the original masters, are, and what the state of them is, and have never received a single answer. So I've come to the conclusion they haven't answered because they don't have them.
Or they don't know where they have them.
No, they don't have them. They've junked them. It's literally, this is a piece of, artistic vandalism. They've destroyed all of the masters, beyond, the kind of digital ones which they can store easily, just so they don't have to pay for any storage. It's expensive storage. Why should they pay for that?
They never had intention for doing anything with it anyway.
Yep.
So.
Yeah.
So how does that, I know with these things it can sometimes be tricky what you're allowed or encouraged to talk about, but do you work with lawyers on this? Are you a 1 or 2 person crusade just going up against the big labels. How does one even begin to achieve something like that?
Well, there are organizations which speak for artists. We do have a lawyer.
I mean, you need a lawyer for telling you what's legally you should say or not say, or you can't know all the legal rules, so you do need a lawyer for that, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, people like the Featured Artists Coalition in the UK or EPO artists in Europe. I mean, very much in contact with those people, and they are trying to make certain things happen. So there's the DCMS Creator Remuneration Working Group in the UK, which is a group of labels and artist managers talking to government about how to improve the situation of artists. And that consists of a bunch of people from major labels and a bunch of other labels all lying to government about what they're actually doing, or claiming to do something that they're not doing.
So it's about changing the law.
Well, the thing is, changing the law is not necessary, but I mean, ultimately you would have to change laws to force people to do stuff, and that brings its own level of complication. And then in Europe you have EPO artists, and what they're working on is there's something called the DSM directive in Europe, which is again about remuneration for creatives. And even though this is law in Europe, it's not being implemented because the labels, the record companies, the company just wriggling out of it. They're just not doing it. And then just because we live in a world in which large international industries don't give a fuck. There used to be a day when you could write a letter to a record company and say, you're in breach of contract. What have you got to say about that? And they would reply to you. Now they don't bother. Why should they?
It's amazing how far they can get just by stonewalling. We had I'll be vague so I don't run afoul of any settlement conditions, but we had a situation where we needed to go after some owing funds to us. And it was really clear increasingly that the strategy of the people on the other side of that conversation was we'll just say no and keep saying no until they get sick of it and go away.
Yep.
And we took calls with these litigation lawyers who were going to be on our side, and they would say, don't do anything about this. It's not worth it. It's not enough money to be worth what it's going to cost you to go after it. It was thanks to major label debut producer Josh. He was the one who wouldn't take no for an answer, and he found a lawyer that would actually advise us to go along with it. And lo and behold, when we didn't take no for an answer, things ended up working out. But a band that was less committed to that, or if it hadn't been in the middle of the pandemic and everyone had been busier, or we'd been on tour or whatever else, we might have just hung our heads and walked away glumly. And that, it might not have been a lot of money to a litigator, but it was a lot of money to us. And it was our money.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, exactly that. It's the artist's money.
The other thing is that they depend on the fact that ultimately the artist's afraid that their career might be damaged. And I've got news. I don't give a fuck.
That's the beauty of what you're doing.
Yeah, nobody can damage my career.
But how many artists are like you, willing to
the thing
learn the detail and fight?
The thing is that there are definitely artists who have got their own catalogue back. Our digital distributor, State 51, worked with both Kate Bush and Madness, both of whom have got their own catalogue back. And, we were there last week and saw, I think it was Hounds of Love. There was just a room full of Hounds of Love records. I mean, just boxes and boxes and boxes of the damn things. And so I think Kate's making a few bob out of that. So great to hear it,
But, maybe not all artists have the power and financial power to fight.
I think you've also got to care, and there is that very much that thing, especially with bands who kind of started out in their 20s and they get to their 30s and things haven't quite worked out, and then they're just thinking, oh well, we'll get proper jobs now, and their music might be it might be of value, but who knows.
I think part of what's valuable about this conversation, aside from just my personal enjoyment of it, is I suspect there's young musicians listening to this. And I remember when I was a young musician, you wouldn't hear a lot of voices like yours matter-of-factly saying, yes, you can do this, and yes, you should do this. Instead, there was this whole industry apparatus, even the parts of it that were on our side, on our payroll, our team, who would always be ready to say, that's just how things work. That's just how it's done. That's just the terms of the contract. If we want to play the game, these are the rules of the game. And when you're 23 and you want to play the game more than anything in the world, you're not too worried about which of the rules are a little bit less advantageous to you. You're down to get in the ring. You think that you're equipped with the knowledge. And then, as you say, you're in your 30s, and all the people that worked with or for you, all of the middle people have houses, and you're still renting a shitty apartment and spending 6 months in a van playing to smaller and smaller venues, but no one else's cut's getting smaller. And to hear someone say that's not actually, it doesn't have to be that way, and there are levers available to you to change your circumstances. And because Colin, Malka, to me, what you two have built, what you're doing, your studio, your label, your radio show, your records, your tours, it might not always be easy, but it's yours and you control it, and you get to make your art and get it out to people tic-tac-toe. And that to me is the dream. And I think it's really important for people to see that it's an achievable dream, and it is something that's out there that exists that you can work towards deliberately. It just takes a little bit of extra heavy lifting, I guess.
You just have to keep going and believe in yourself.
Yeah, obviously, I can't claim that what we are doing here with the stuff that we do between us is the total income that we live off. I mean, there is wire catalogue stuff which is contributing considerably to the what we are living off. But at the same time, a lot of artists will continue to work while they're making their art, and maybe to be thinking about the idea that you should be owning your stuff. I mean, here's an idea. If you're in your early 20s and you're just looking at various record deals, there are plenty of record companies now who will offer you a deal which basically says after, say, 5 years, that record you just signed and got a little advance for, and they put out, you can have the rights to that back. That exists in the ethical labels are starting to bring that in, and it makes sense. It makes sense on a business level as well, because if that record does really well, then that conversation in that 5 years is going to be a bit different. They're going to be saying, well, guys, we can give you some money for this. So if you extend your contract with us, we'll give you a bit more money, and we'll do this and we'll do that, and we'll give you better terms. And if that doesn't work out so well, for the label, it's like, well, we don't have to continue to support this. Look, take it back and see what you guys can do with it. Put out your small edition for yourself and slate your fans on the road.
Yes.
You cut down the people in between you and the selling of your art. That's another useful thing. I mean, it's a small example, but when we did the UK tour last year, we made a very limited edition lathe cut 7-inch. Those 2 tracks, one on each side, obviously, are not available in any other format. They're not on digital. They're not on anything. You could hear them, us play them live, and they created quite a lot of excitement amongst fans because it's like, but that's a kind of an exclusive item, and you know, they're not particularly cheap to do something like that, but you can certainly make more than make your money back. If you've got an audience, you can do that. You can do that for, and you know, it's a great example of fans would like to have a way to support a band, and the idea that they could buy something and the money goes directly to the band, and they don't have to be investing in a run of 1,000 albums, which is going to bankrupt them. They could do something small run.
Yes.
For a lot of artists, being on a label, it's a status thing, isn't it? So, yeah, it's hard to think about it going alone.
It's the validation.
Yeah.
That's one of those tracks on that 7-inch is actually called "We Don't Need Your Validation."
And that's power, right?
Yeah.
To not need it, to not need the gatekeepers' help, to not need the validation, it takes their power away and puts it back in your hands.
Well, I think that message needs to be said. People need to understand just look coldly at what that idea is. Look, if you're in this to get validation, where are you? Who are you getting validation from? To get validation from the industry is not necessarily doing you any good. Get it from fans. If someone comes up to you after a show and says you're the best thing since sliced bread, that's great validation.
I mean, press is another thing that they seem to follow. All the press seem to be, oh, you're into this band this month, and then they all move in the same direction together. There's no originality anymore and individuality in press.
I don't think there ever was.
Well, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, we on the show, we do not do a chart of the year. We don't do, we did a show when we played some tracks from 2025 without saying that they were our favourites or whatever. They weren't particularly, they were just a bunch of stuff from 2025 that made a good mix for that show.
Yeah.
And, and that's because when you see those, everybody comes with these lists of like, here's my top 20 albums for last year. And it's like, they've all got the same names on them. It's all the same stuff, and it's like, because it's all like, look at me, I'm so clever. I've picked up on that Geese album,
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, you and just about everybody else, Hey, how about having an original thought,
I don't know if you've ever come across this, but every year, former President Barack Obama publishes his like best albums and best movies and best books of the year. And they're just every time you could pick, the 10 toniest publications and feed their top 10 lists into an algorithm, and out would pop, sure enough, Barack Obama's unimpeachably tasteful list of favorite records or anything. And it all just feels so empty. There's nothing behind it.
Because it's trying to make a statement about, I'm plugged in, I know what's going on. But do you actually love this stuff, or is that just what the industry is saying? This is the flavour of the week or the month or whatever.
And I guess there's always been an element of using the music you like as sort of a signifier of your identity, like your fashion sense or anything else. But as everyone's signified identity gets more and more online, everyone's having their Andy Warhol 15 minutes on TikTok or Instagram or whatever else. It seems like the art that people consume is becoming even more vacuumed into just that sense of, this is an accessory to my projection.
That's why we enjoy doing our radio show, because we kind of ignore we never listen to other radio shows. Maybe that's not very friendly, but we like to have our own voice and our own choices.
How do you find all the music? There's such a huge amount. And I was talking to John Paul, producer, before this, and he is a true infinite collector of music. He also, he's generating 50 song playlists every single month of new music. And he was learning about more than half of the bands that you were playing from your show. Where are you finding all this music? How do you manage that?
It's Malka.
What's the secret, Malka?
I can't even say. I don't know. I just go sort of surfing different places and listening very quickly, very short, to a lot of things from different sources, and just finding what sounds good. Then I share it with Colin, then we make our own list out of it. And I'm a bit OCD, so it's kind of obsessive. Once I get into it, it becomes an obsession. So it's my obsession, one of my obsessions.
Yeah, we've got like a few playlists that Malka adds to. Malka's ideas about what constitutes a genre or style of music are interesting, to say the least. But what we try and do is curate the show in a way of a kind of genre collision, or an aesthetic collision. So if you play one sort of thing, then you have to play something quite different after it. Mm-hmm. So, we'll be able to pick from those lists. And, sometimes, Malka will come with something and be like, wow, that's amazing. And sometimes we listen to it for 10 seconds and Malka just says, take it out of the list, it's rubbish, because she just decided, she listened to the other bit.
Yeah, you listen for a few seconds and then suddenly they bring stupid vocal that you didn't expect, and that's like, no way, we're going to have it. So, yeah.
Yeah, but there is a sense of aesthetics throughout the whole thing. I mean, there's certain styles of music we don't play, and there are certain artists we don't play, and certainly we won't play something because it's the thing that everybody's talking about. We'll check it out, but if we don't like it, we won't play it.
But if we love it, we'll play it, even though other people play it. But
yeah, there's no rules about obscurity.
No, there is no rule. No, we certainly aren't into being deliberately obscure. No, that's really important. But the other thing is, and that's where people can get quite annoyed with us. I mean, we might play music by an artist and then they'll have a new song that we don't play because we didn't like it very much. Yeah. Or we don't necessarily play, we play stuff by people that we know, but we only play if we like it. Mm-hmm. We're not going to, just because someone we know has a new record out, it doesn't mean to say that we're going to play it.
I mean, it can get quite awkward because I feel like, I know, because we're artists and we don't like to be ignored or not supported. So it's very difficult.
You know people in this industry. You have friends who play in bands, and if you also love music and have taste in music, chances are you're not going to love every song that every band that your friends are in puts out. And that is awkward. But
it's awkward,
if you can't be truthful about it.
Yeah.
I always say it's all we have. As a radio show, it's the bloke from Wire and the girl from Minimal Compact doing a radio show. That deserves like 10 minutes of listening. Really, that's not a reason for listening to 5 years of shows. It has to be what we choose. It's about what we play and, to an extent, what we have to say about it. The fact that we do actually present it, I think it gives it a human side. Sometimes it's kind of not, occasionally we'll do something which is more of a playlist or a dance floor mix or something like that. But for the most part, we're presenting the tracks in sort of traditional radio style because it's nice to give a little background to the artists and also it just some familiarity to the audience, so that the audience know there's someone out there. It's not just a Spotify playlist.
Yeah, it's more personal.
It's something that I really miss, at least where I live. We still have rock radio here, but the talking is very seldom about the music. It's that sort of American consultant rock radio energy of a zany news story or the bizarre poll results or a sort of borderline sexual innuendo you can get away with without alienating advertisers. And I get the sense there might be a different broadcast culture in the UK, but just hearing people play music and speak knowledgeably and passionately about the music that they're playing, it's like the best way to hear music, and yet I never get to experience it that way. So it really is it's yet another service of good that you're both providing.
Well, thank you very much. I mean, we love doing it. I mean, we may create a bit of a rod for our backs. I mean,
it's a lot of work.
It is a lot of work, and Malka always points out that I'm very insistent on trying to do an original show every week. And, if we're going on tour or we're just going away for a few days, I mean, sometimes, we're having to produce shows in advance and trying to be really clever about how we put things together. And, we're not always in the best mood when we do it as well, so it's
hard.
It can be hard work, but there are amazing rewards. I mean, it's not just that we play artists that we know. We know artists through the show.
But also we get inspired by other music, which feeds into what we do, which is really important. You have to keep, finding new music. Otherwise you get stuck in a rut especially if you've been doing it for so many years. When people say there's nothing new anymore, it's bullshit.
Yeah, there's always something good and new. And I mean, it's not like there is always something which is, as original as the first time you heard drum and bass, or, but there is always a new twist, a new way of doing something, and new artists who are making a connection because every individual is doing things in a different way.
How do you, when you're working on the radio show and something inspires you, will you push pause on the radio show and swivel your chair over to the synthesizer and start working on music? Or do you keep things a little more separate than that? Because I'm sitting here, literally, if I swivel my chair to the left, I got my Casio tone ready to start jamming on.
Yeah, we could swivel. Yeah, I mean, we're in the same position.
Yeah.
But we don't. I mean, it's a production process, basically. What we do it in 3 basic parts. First of all, we put together, because nobody ever told us how to do a radio show, so we do a radio show like we're making a song. So basically, a Swimming in Sound show starts off as being a series of tracks on a timeline with gaps in between. And then we that sort of roughly, fills a 2-hour space. And we know we're going to have some, slots that we always have. We have, minimal and wire and something from us, and those kind of things that help make the curation just a little bit easier. And then we'll take that list and then go away and do a bit of research and figure out what's what, have some notes, and then come back and then record it like, we record it into the gaps. And, it's always best if we're able to do that more or less in real time. So we're listening to the music and then we're talking about it.
Yeah.
And that's definitely the bet. You can do it by just doing the gaps.
The inspiration comes more not in a total direct way like that. It's not like I hear a line and I want to see how to play it or whatever. It's more like I don't even know. It's not completely conscious. Like just you become more aware of other music, and obviously if you love it, you'll be influenced by it.
I mean, we can talk about culture here, because we come from very, very different music cultures, and I'm not talking about countries, I'm talking about bands. Mm-hmm. So the difference between wire and minimal compact is massive in terms of how the music is made. Everything about it is really different. And one of the things that minimal compact always had, and what I realised when I first met them, I went to produce them, was they were so much more knowledgeable about contemporary music than any band I'd ever met.
Well, there was Sami, the singer, who was a huge record collector, which was important. We didn't appreciate it so much at the time, but we realized over time that, knowing what's out there is important.
So I think that also influenced your music. So you were
sure.
hearing what was going on all the time in a way that...
Well, you can't say the wire came out of nowhere.
No, wire didn't come out of nowhere, but like many bands, you start with a set of influences and then you actually kind of go on your own internal influence.
Yeah, but I think the main difference is that Minimal created the songs just by playing together and just jamming, basically. while Wire is more like a songwriter. And
yeah, it's me writing songs and bringing it to the band. Yeah, yeah, it's a different way of and actually, like, we can't draw lines in between all of this stuff, because that really feeds into Immersion. The way that we work together is maybe a little bit more like Minimal Compact. We jam stuff out together, we work stuff out together.
The difference is that we have no ego between us, and if we have an opinion, we just say it. And that kind of, it's great to have that freedom as an artist, to be, free to express your opinion, to feel free to express yourself. You don't have your limited kind of space where you're supposed to operate. Oh yeah, I'm the bass player, so I'm not going to do anything else.
Yeah.
Well, I wonder too, that, Colin, you mentioned, or one of you just said about how you can kind of become your own influence as a band. And my experience with a band was much more like that, where we had we knew our influences when we started, and then very quickly you're sort of reacting to yourself. And I think part of that was everyone not realizing it, but everyone became more and more set in their corner, and the instrument you played and the way you played the instrument and sort of your territory sonically of the song we never talked about it, but people got less and less free and adventurous over time. And you sort of feel while it's happening like you're learning, you're getting better and more effective and even more efficient. Not that efficiency should ever be part of making music. And then you wake up one day and you realize that you're stagnating, and you went there thinking it was the right place to go. And instead it was maybe the exact opposite of where you should be going. And that's also true, I guess, in any relationship. And maybe that's part of the benefit of being bandmates and also life partners, is you have, I'm sure, confronted many of those situations throughout your time together, as we all must in our relationships, but bands don't always remember to do.
Yeah, I think there are lines you can't cross also as a we are a couple.
Well, I think actually what happens, the process of us working together is almost the opposite of what you describe. So we're developing as we go all the time and finding more and more openness and space for us to operate as individuals within it, which is kind of the opposite of what you were talking about, where you get more and more in your own kind of space and you're limited to it even without realizing. So I feel like it's almost endless, the possibilities.
Yeah.
And that's how it's supposed to work. I also feel like the commercial end of things can reinforce the staying in your lane procedure, because you're trying to sell what people want to buy, and often, if you're not careful, that can turn into a real, not political conservatism, but artistic conservatism.
Yeah. I mean, in Minimal, I remember there were talk of, we have to keep doing that. I mean, we never talked about what to do, we did it. And suddenly there's talk about how to do or what direction. I mean, that's already kind of ruined it for us.
Mm-hmm. It's true. I mean, once you try and second guess yourself, like try and do the thing that made you famous.
Yeah,
it's downhill from there, and it never works.
It never works.
Yeah, and there are people who have a talent to produce things which are ridiculously commercial and gimmicky and whatever, and probably don't have that much to do with music. But that's a different kind of thing to being in a band, and I think that it's important to still remain excited about what you're doing. If it doesn't excite you, why would you do it?
Yeah,
for the money, which is not a good reason.
Money. There's no money.
Well, that's it. And now there's no money. And yet the attitudes and the approaches are struggling to catch up with that. And so, it is amazing to see these poor bands and artists out there struggling to do commercial work. And to what end? You're not even going to become a millionaire. Like, it's one thing to sell your soul for a big check. It's another thing to rent it out to Mark Zuckerberg for free.
Yeah. Well, that's classic, isn't it? You put your music on Facebook, and they only promise that they might pay you something. I mean, that's just I mean, it's all. nothing. It's all very, very not transparent. That whole setup. You can talk about all of the means by which the music reaches the general public. There is nobody out there of the major players, including Bandcamp, who is really transparent about who owns it, where the money goes. It's it's all a kind of I don't know. In a way, what needs to happen to that whole structure is it just needs to be burned down and replaced with something else. And I don't have the ability to come up with what it needs to be replaced with. I just know that doing something directly and having a direct relationship with your fans, a genuine relationship with your fans, not something that's mediated through social media, is
very hard
really
to
important.
achieve what you're saying.
It is hard to achieve, but certainly not impossible. I mean, one thing I've really noticed is, since we've been doing a radio show, when we play live gigs, people will come up at the, I always do the merch because I just love doing merch. It's fun. And people, they're very chatty because they've heard the show and they know that I'm quite chatty. And so they don't have that, oh yeah, you're that person, so I can't approach you, I'm not worthy. They're just chatty. And it's kind of nice. You have a human discourse with somebody, while they buy your music and they get something more out of it than just, oh yeah, they'll remember when they bought that record or that CD or whatever it is, or T-shirt, and they'll be constantly reminded of that every time that they access it. And I think it's a kind of a nice direct link.
I mean, we do that as an audience. We go to gig, we might go to the merch table and talk to the artists. I mean,
yeah, we always try and buy something. So it's a classic thing is that we'll approach the merch table and one of the band will say to Malka, thanks for playing us on your radio show. They always say it to Malka, they never say it to me.
I don't know.
I know she's more distinctive looking than I am, but yeah.
I have no idea.
But sometimes
I'm always surprised though, like, what? Who I am. Okay.
Because you don't necessarily, that's the weird thing about radio is, playing live, you see your audience in front of you, you know who they are.
Yeah.
A radio show, you have no idea who's listening. I mean, yeah, you get some feedback on social media, but that's just, people who follow you on social media. It can be people can be listening to the show and not saying anything to you necessarily. They just listen to the show because they like it,
Or they might click like and they never listen. So
yeah,
that happens too.
Yeah.
Colin, parenthetically, but you posted very generously when you did your first episode. You posted about it on Instagram, and our images always contain the album cover that we're talking about. And you said in your caption, "Don't just click like on this because you like the record."
Yeah.
And I really appreciated that because I do think a lot of our engagement comes that way.
Yeah, I mean, people actually did click on it because they like the record.
Yeah.
Some
you can't
people
stop them.
admitted.
I
Yeah.
mean, when you're dealing with Pink Flag, I mean, there's a whole lot of people who basically, they're fans of Pink Flag. They're not even necessarily fans of Wire. They think they're fans of Wire, but they're actually just fans of Pink Flag.
I mean, Wire are many records and many sounds. So
Yeah. I mean, so, and they just could be like that. That just sort of, that just ticks a box for them. So when they see me posting something with it in it, they just like it for that reason. But, hopefully.
I mean, the power of an iconic image. I mean, really. That
Indeed.
record. Yeah.
And, you mentioned earlier, Colin, that's part of the way that you're able to live the dream that you're currently living is because that record made such an impact on so many people. And that's, the good old-fashioned double-edged sword of music success.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's very nice to be able to, for myself, the band, to make money out of our catalogue. I mean, we don't own the publishing, and that is a very moot point, I should say, not mute point. But certainly owning the label rights to the crown jewels in the Wire catalogue has been very, very beneficial to the band. You know, there's no millionaires being made here, but there's an income that looks more like a reasonably paid teacher. You know, but
yes, and we don't need. You don't need $1 million to be able to live and work and create. And indeed, it seems increasingly likely that having $1 million might be spiritually deleterious in some fundamental way.
Yeah.
Well, you know, this just it was really interesting. It's another podcast hearing somebody talking with experience who knew billionaires saying, they're just obsessed with having more money than the other person. Mm-hmm. It's
absurd. What do you do with it?
What do you do? You know, once the art and trickle down capitalism is bullshit.
Oh yeah.
There is only, if you've got a lot of money, there are only so many shirts and socks and, you know, holidays and pints of beer that you can pay for. You know, basically, billionaires should be subsidising a basic wage for everybody, irrespective of whether they're working or not, so people can be free to work in actual creative pursuits, including creating new businesses, which they are not able to do right now because people just don't have the capital. Economy. It would be fantastic for the economy. I mean, we're right here in Britain. You know, there's so many high streets which are dying, because people do all their shopping online, so therefore there aren't clothes shops, and you know, it all becomes bars and restaurants.
Yes,
we need a bit more going on in our local communities, and that's not going to happen if people are just, you know, wage slaves working for companies that they don't love the work of and don't have any time.
I mean, Brighton is a good place. I mean, at least we have some community and we have some independent shops. And yeah,
we're very lucky in that respect.
I've really enjoyed experiencing Brighton via your Instagram. Yours especially, Malka. Your photography is also beautiful and evocative. And I haven't been to Brighton in person in more than a decade, sadly. But I feel like I know it a little better for your work. Thank you. We've touched a couple times on and not talked about streaming, you know, your Spotify's and your Tidals and your whoever else. And it's so emblematic to me how, on one hand, the existence of this digital distribution network for music enables people like you, and I aspire people like me, to be able to own their own music and distribute it widely with, you know, an ease that would have been unthinkable 30 years ago. But on the other hand, you're also just feeding the profits. Everyone knows they don't pay shit. And meanwhile, they are spending all the money they're not paying to artists on inventing robot artists that won't complain about not getting paid. And so on one hand, you have this beautiful, democratizing, accessible medium to get music to people. And on the other hand, it's entirely owned by, you know, the nightmare class. And that's not really a question because there is no answer to it. It's just another example of the strange tightrope we're all kind of trying to balance on, I guess.
I think you just have to look at these things with open eyes. Like for Spotify is not transparent. You don't know how much money they take from the pot of money that comes into Spotify. I mean, they have an interesting way of sharing out the money is that they divide the total income by, once they've taken their share off, by the amount of times anyone got streamed. You know, the total number of streams, and then you're getting paid a percentage based on how much you stream, which is probably the only way that they could do it in terms of sorting out the money. The bits where it's transparent is you don't know how much Spotify are taking off the top, and for most artists, it's the labels are basically, you know, especially if it's an older artist. I mean, they're paying out on vinyl rates from the 50s or 60s or 70s or 80s, which are a very small amount of what is being received, for which they have to do zero work. It costs nothing to maintain stuff on digital platforms.
Yes.
So, it's all very, and the other thing is that the thing about Spotify and Apple Music to an extent is it's also the fan curation. I mean, the promotion is not being done by record companies, it's being done by the fans themselves. People who just love the music, so they stream it and they put it on playlists and they make it more popular. And how amazing that is for, capitalist record companies to just sit there and say, well, we don't spend any money on it, and other people, the consumers, just basically promote it for us, and then we can just cream off 95% of the income.
Yeah. And it's so heartbreaking because it should be a miracle. I have the ability to, pick up this rectangle in my hand and send a song to my friend instantaneously that they can just tap with their thumb and be hearing that same second. That I'm describing paradise, except for the fact that it's all to the greater wealth and glory of the vampires that run our society. And it's just, you get so far and it sounds so idyllic and beautiful. Like if someone woke up in a coma from 1982, you would get that far and they'd think, oh, thank God, we live in a utopian future. And then you have to break to them what's actually going on and what the upshot of all this is, and it's not so.
How did we get there? We were promised flying cars when we were young. That didn't happen, did it? Who knows what the next iteration is? All that you can say is that whatever the situation is now, it will change. And it's very hard to know in what ways it will change. And there is definitely a movement amongst the young towards something more analog, towards the idea that they don't consume digitally. Yeah. They don't consume music from Spotify or whatever. They buy cassettes or they, I mean, certainly CDs are seeing something of a comeback. We actually sell more CDs on the road than we sell vinyl. And given that it's, it's all supposed to be all about vinyl, It's fascinating that people are buying CDs, and that's partly to do with the cost of living, that they're cheaper, but also the portability.
And vinyl is
about
expensive.
Old people. I'm talking about young people as well. In fact, more young people.
And it's so artist friendly because we found as an indie band, I'm sure you've experienced this running the label, that as vinyl did get more and more mainstream, that you'd start to get put in the queue with your little order of 500 reprints of the third Tokyo Police Club record. And they'd sort of tell you, we got 100,000 Taylor Swift records to manufacture and we're going to be prioritizing that. So you're waiting 8 months to get your record. You can't plan that far ahead. Meanwhile, you can turn around 8 boxes of CDs in a week, it seems like, for a fraction of the cost.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of crazy, and I think that dynamic will change. I think, vinyl has become, it's not only the speed at which it can be manufactured, that's partly to do with bottlenecks. They're just not enough plants manufacturing it. But then you've also got to look at the whole sustainability thing. Vinyl is a big lump of plastic that is still going to be there in 1,000 years when nobody knows what to do with it, polluting the planet. It's and all musicians are all like upholding green principles and then insisting that their records are released on vinyl.
Right.
Yeah, just get a life. Try and figure out some answers here and start thinking about it before you mouth off about how superior vinyl is.
It seems to be a selection, isn't it? Who you support and how you do things. If it's not convenient, you're going to forget that. Maybe you should think about it deeper.
We've all been trained as individual consumer pods, and our own convenience and our own preference is the only North Star there is left. And so these concerns of social utility or, community health just seem to be less valued than certainly in my lifetime and maybe in a lot of lifetimes. But as you say, Colin, it does seem like these things have to change. And the greedy bastards can never restrain themselves, and they get so greedy that they can't hide it anymore, and it pisses people off. And then that historically seems to, make change one way or another.
Yeah, greed is a strange thing. It is a strange thing. In some ways, I don't really understand. There's a level of greed I just don't really understand as a person.
Well, money is power, isn't it?
Yeah, but maybe I've just got to a point in my life where I just don't care, Yeah, who knows? Yeah.
Well, money is power, but power is problems, man.
Yeah.
It seems stressful to have all that power. My life is chill.
Yeah, what kind of power is it? I mean,
yeah, power is also responsibility.
Well, yeah, if you
or
responsible.
It's supposed to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we live in a world of unforeseen consequences, no more than right now. And who knows what's going to kick off in the next year, even, just in terms of unforeseen consequences.
It's kind of going back to what the fuck and the words on the record.
Yeah.
You make your own judgment and you make your own rules in a way, and you just follow what you believe in.
But it's good to have an ethical sense. Some people just don't have one. How do we deal with, we talk, the industry talks a lot about mental health. Mm-hmm. Mental health is something to be considered, and people there is neurodiversity in the world. Basically, how do we deal with narcissists? Because narcissists don't have that sense of what other people think or how something plays with other people. I think it's a huge problem for us, and unfortunately, there are narcissists with huge power in the world doing stuff, and it will for sure lead to unforeseen consequences, including for themselves, I would say.
Oh, well, absolutely, and it's cold comfort sometimes, but you look at some of these assholes and you just feel like you don't know what human happiness feels like. You cannot possibly experience human happiness if this is what you're doing with your time and energy. It must be foreign to you. Yeah, and I wouldn't trade anything for that. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, happiness is. Yeah, you can't decide to be happy, but it should be an aim. Human happiness should be, and ultimately, the art that we make should be contributing towards human happiness. That doesn't mean to say that it should be stupid or just banal because of that. You can say serious stuff and still contribute towards happiness because you're taking a rounded view of the world.
Happiness for me is being able to create and be happy with what we create.
And it's meaning, you don't always have a big grin on your face when you're halfway through puzzling out a song or a playlist for a radio show or whatever else. But when you're engaged and fulfilled by it, that, to me, that feels like its own form of happiness or of fulfillment or certainly of reward.
And I must add that there is nothing that makes me more happy than Malka being happy.
Okay.
Because she's someone who can spread happiness like I don't know. It's a very nice feeling.
Yeah, since last time we spoke, I got married, and I feel like re-engaging with thank you so much, re-engaging with the work of Immersion and also the notion of Immersion, of you two working together. I understand it so much more now, and my wife and I don't collaborate on music, but we do collaborate on many other things and on life. And speaking of meaning, the meaning that I derive from what we do together is so much bigger than anything I knew about. And critically, after years of being in a band where a lot of that meaning, for better or for worse, is derived from the audience and also maybe the industry, it's so nice to get meaning from just a human relationship with another human. And it stops there, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, it's all good.
We can relate to that.
Yeah, we can absolutely relate to that. It's interesting. There is a strange history of couples in music. Not
Indeed.
all of which, not
Doesn't
all of which
always
have
end
worked
in
out.
good.
Yeah, it doesn't always end well. Sometimes it ends seriously badly.
I mean, the
Yeah.
pressure of the industry can destroy, I'm sure, relationships. So, yeah.
It destroys friendships all the time.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, but
I mean,
that's
talking of friendships, I mean, other people also are important. Yeah, your partner in life is important, but having other people that you feel comfortable with and friends with is also something
yeah,
that
absolutely.
can make you happy. We discovered it more in Brighton.
Yeah,
Sure.
Brighton is somewhere. I mean, we lived in London for 22. Is it 22 years?
22, yeah.
Yeah, we lived in London for 22 years, and London was in some ways more exciting in the 90s. There was more going on, but it feels like Brighton. It's a very social city. We know a lot of people. We know a lot of people of all different ages. Who we relate to. Some of them are musicians and other creative people, and others who do other things. And it feels it is a very open city, obviously with a very high LGBTQ plus population here, which makes it feel a very open place.
Very inclusive.
Yeah.
Very, very inclusive. And that gives some kind of power to the city, actually.
I think for humans to feel where they live, whether it's a city or a country, and they feel in common with other people is really important. That's why there's such a big crisis in some countries where the leaders, you feel sort of appalled and not part of it anymore. It's really hard.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then meanwhile, you sit in your apartment doing your job on Zoom, like we're doing our conversation right now, and your food comes to your door and your groceries come to your door and your battery that you need to buy comes to your door.
Yeah.
And you just don't engage with you don't go talk to a shopkeeper to buy a single battery, and that's,
Yeah.
I think we need that.
We do. I mean, we go, like, there's someone who's selling like organic produce from the area, and we always talk to him like he's a friend, which is really charming. I like that.
Yeah, no. So it is. Yeah, I mean, it is. We are kind of privileged to be in a situation where there's a really good food culture in Brighton. I mean, we have the choice of bread that we have is just extraordinary. I mean, we never had that in London. You couldn't go to a bakery and buy fresh bread. It was, the best ones were chains. And this is something that we have. We have great restaurants. We have interesting pubs. We have a lot of venues. There's a lot going on. It's
Independent shops.
Independent shops. It's a bit weak. Visual arts. We don't have a gallery.
Lots of visual artists, though.
But there's a lot of visual artists, and there are a lot of creative people of every kind who live in this city.
I mean, we
Right.
gave up our car, so we walk everywhere. We go to gigs.
Congratulations.
So, yeah.
Yeah, we gave up our car because we discovered that the only place we were going in it was either to the garden centre or the recycling place. I mean, to pay all that money for a car every year just for
Yeah,
that.
we're
seems-
lucky to live in a city where you can walk to most places.
Oh,
So.
we walk or get the bus,
Yeah, the bus service is good. So, yeah, it's part of human happiness, I think, where you live and how you feel about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Absolutely.
we had a friend visiting from Calgary a couple of years ago, and she was like, "I can't believe it. We just walked from your place to the centre. Oh, actually, we walked from their hotel to the centre to kind of go out to do something. You can't walk in Calgary. You have to go in the car." If you want to do anything you want to do, you have to go in a car.
So, yeah, there's shops, there's restaurants. You just walk and you can just go in, and we're lucky we don't have to drive anywhere.
Yeah, I mean, but the downside is it's become a victim of its own success. It's become more expensive, especially for younger creative people to continue to stay here. So it makes it a bit more difficult, and the towns around it are less nice. There's less going on, although they're cheaper to live in.
Yeah.
And it's part of the beauty and charm of Brighton to have young people in bands that live here. And so we would feel it'd be negative if lots of people leave because they can't afford it. So, yeah.
But how do you solve that problem? I mean, you can't really go to the council and say, yeah, well, you need to subsidise housing for young creatives.
I was thinking about it. Maybe people above certain income should pay tax.
Yeah.
That only goes towards helping young people that live here.
It can be, but then they would be saying, well, what about all these other poor people who haven't got houses? I mean, why are we subsidising young creative people? Because they bring potential prosperity to the city is the reason why. But yeah, I mean, we're also, venues in central Brighton are under perpetual threat from developers wanting to build blocks of flats next to them. And, there's one particular place actually where we go very often, and where we played our last show, Immersion, Alphabet in Brighton, as is the most threatened venue in the country, according to the Music Venue Trust.
It's a worldwide problem. I'm sure that... clubs close.
Oh, here in Toronto, it's a constant turnover. And it seems to be, it stays equalized, at least here where venues close, but then 2 venues open.
Yeah.
So right now it's holding equilibrium.
Yeah, but I mean, one of the things is like, unfortunately, the kind of Blixer effect is classically, he moved into an area because it was cool, and then he realised he bought next to a venue, and then he wanted it closed down because they were making too much noise.
Is that a real story? Because
it might be. This might actually be an urban myth. So I don't know whether that's true or not. So,
but it's not.
That happens.
Yeah,
that
it happens a lot. Yeah,
it happens a lot, and people. Brighton has that kind of cool thing. So people from London will want to. Yeah, we can live there in the centre. We can be close to the station, so we can get to work. And and it's cool, really cool here, isn't it? Yeah, and that. But that venue next door to that newly built flat is like, it's too much noise, and that is, that venue closing is depriving a cultural asset from a lot of people. And, this is, that's a circle to square. And for people to, within government, local government and national government, to see places like venues as being cultural assets rather than just pubs that put on bands.
Yeah.
Is, there's a kind of snobbishness. You would never say, a concert hall that puts on the Philharmonic, you would always call that a cultural venue.
Yeah,
right.
But if you appreciate the big venues with the big musicians, they used to be small ones.
Yeah.
And if you don't support them when they're starting, then you're not going to get to the bigger sort of audience. So
yeah, we have quite a lot to do with the Music Venue Trust, so we kind of know about their work and what they're doing towards. And there's been they don't like to call a levy imposed on certain bigger venues are now paying in, and really this month is the first tranche of money that is going into the grassroots music community ever, where to help touring, to help venues and touring musicians who are really struggling right now to make things happen on the grassroots level. It's never been. There's never been a harder time for bands to tour on the basic level.
Yeah.
And the prospect of making any money. When you're in your 20s, you're just like, I get to play in an audience, and great. And my dad will pick up the bill and all the rest of it. But, by the time you got in your 30s, that's not happening so much, and you're playing to a much bigger audience, but you're still not making any money. That's hard.
Yeah, and one day you just realize, is this actually not sustainable? Which I've been assuming this whole time would never go away.
Yeah.
Is it actually, is it actually 1 second away from disappearing? This might be a problem for me.
Yeah. No, it's I mean, in some ways, we ask more questions than we don't have answers to all of this stuff, but we're aware of it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we're just so downstream, sadly, as artists from what the people with the power consider to be important, that we can try and make these changes that will help support touring artists or support venues. But then again, hotels are just too expensive and gas is too expensive and studios are going away. Rehearsal spaces are going away. And it's just real estate alone is, this horrible detriment to art.
Yeah.
And yet,
well, we need to be organised and we need to shout loud. And we do need people like Featured Artists Coalition and EPO artists to be shouting with us and for us.
But you can't control the shifting culture where young people drink less, so there's less money in the bars.
Oh yeah, that's a big issue now. With, we have friends who run a venue in Brighton, and they're like,
they don't drink.
The young people don't drink. They come out to gigs, but the gigs, especially gigs by young bands, tend to be pretty cheap to get in. So the audience are paid like £5 to get in.
And there's always a bar that you rely on to. Sometimes you don't pay the venue to play, but they rely on the bar to bring the income.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And if that doesn't happen, you can't always blame the artist doesn't get paid, but the people in the chain above also suffering.
Yeah. Well, just that business model worked for so long. Well, we'll just listen. We're a drinking establishment, and then we can throw a band up $100 to provide entertainment and get people through the door to continue drinking, which is our business. And if you take the drinking away, there is no business left.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
That's no one's fault, really.
Yeah.
It's not. You don't want to be out there saying we've passed legislation saying that there's a 3-drink minimum for all citizens.
Yeah, it's.
Didn't we play a gig on the tour with us where they demanded that the audience will buy stuff, otherwise it's part of the.
I think there was something like you needed.
Maybe there was the guest list.
Yeah, that was it. Anyone who's on our guest list needed to buy at least 2 drinks or something like that.
Yeah.
Was this in America?
Yeah, of course. But it's that kind of TikTok generation. They're with their trendy Owler water bottles, and they're keeping themselves hydrated, but they're not drinking. But then who knows what the next generation will be like.
That's what I'm saying. There's no control.
There's no, you have no idea, who would have predicted straight edge,
We need to adapt.
Yeah. Everything needs to adapt, and we definitely need to have a more robust system. And that system is probably the top end of the industry, putting money into the bottom end of the industry for selfish reasons.
Yeah, for the future.
For the future. Because that band that's playing in, Alphabet or the Green Door Store now might well grow to be that band that's going to play Wembley Stadium in 5 years' time or 10 years' time. And you just don't know.
One of the things I've been struck by doing this podcast and talking to a lot of people who were on major labels in the 90s in America, they all had amazing experiences. And across the board, they'll all sort of say, they didn't all make $1 zillion or they didn't all not get dropped, but they all sort of say, oh yeah, they left us alone. We made 3 records how we wanted to because they were developing us, and they sort of understood that it's a gradual process. And if we build this thing right, then we could all be making shit tons of money for years to come instead of throwing it all at one album and hoping it hits right away. And that notion, which, the music industry in those days was printing money, and then they ran as far away as they could from that business model. And now everything has to work right away or it doesn't work at all. And the music's worse, the experience is worse, and the economics are worse. So, whoops.
Yeah, you have to include the online situation that changed everything.
Uh,
I guess it just blew everything wide open.
Yeah, if you've got 2 million followers on TikTok, you get signed. It doesn't matter whether you've got anything decent going on with the music or whatever. That's kind of the level on which it's being done. But people are booking festivals based on Spotify numbers as well.
Yeah. Well, talking of small venues, I had dinner with my band's old agent last year, and we had dinner at a restaurant in Toronto it's in a hotel that has a venue in the basement, one of those sort of complex things. And he was saying the venue downstairs used to be every touring band's first stop in Toronto. It's, you know, a 200 cap room that looks great with 40 people in it. It's in a good part of town. It has a lot of walk up. You can have a great show there. And then next time you come back, you play the Horseshoe Tavern or whatever. And now all these entry level venues they don't get gigs because bands on their first tours have 2 million TikTok followers and are playing in a 1,200 capacity venue. They might never come back after that because it didn't sell out, but that's where they're going. And so these venues that used to host 4 touring bands a week are lucky if they get 4 touring bands a month sometimes.
That's crazy. Yeah, no,
if they're still there.
Yeah, if they're still there.
If they're still there.
But that'll disappear. Something else will come up, and maybe it's also to do with the audience. I mean, that idea, the kind of analog idea, seeing a live band is part of that. Going out to see a live band that's new and exciting, going to see a band when they're playing their first tour in a 1,600 capacity venue. They can't be any good. It's just you've got to. It's not about paying dues, but, there is something about, we never go and see a band in a venue bigger than probably 300 people, to be quite honest.
Right.
It just doesn't, it's also true that...
We're going to see My Bloody Valentine. That's the only exception.
Yeah, that's because Malka's obsessed with seeing My Bloody Valentine.
I'm not obsessed.
I value my hearing, to be honest.
I was going to say, you must have high quality earplugs.
We do.
Absolutely. Age-related deafness also.
Yeah.
So
that's nature's earplugs.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see how that works out. I mean, but yeah, for the most part, when we go and see a band, it's in there are some great small venues in Brighton. All of the best venues are 200 and less cap, to be
We've
really
seen
honest.
some great gigs over the years.
Yeah.
What's the best gig you've seen recently?
Oh.
Pop quiz.
I'm just thinking, what the last gig we saw?
Well, we saw Modern Nature in Alphabet. That was pretty good, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're aware of Modern Nature. It's a band.
I think so.
Jack Cooper.
Yeah.
Heavy forces ending in a world of heavy choices. It's their life. It's breaking all the time. Take your magazine and simmer. Let them roll again. Whoa.
Very good.
Yeah.
Yeah, we saw quite a lot of good artists. But
I'm just trying to think. I mean, my brain, ask me a question like that and my brain freezes. I can never think of honestly, I need to have a list of everyone that we've...
just think of the experience and when you felt kind of uplifted by something. AKDK.
Oh, AKDK, yeah, AKDK, anytime, anywhere.
Anymore, nobody shouts. What if Rosa Parks just put her AirPods on and shuffled off to the back of the bus? What if Malcolm X, the suffragettes and Gandhi were all too busy playing Candy Crush? Oh, we don't want to cause a fuss. The last time I spoke out, I got punched. And if it looks like you care, you just look like a cunt. And so we all keep calm, carry on and shut the fuck up.
And Anna Earhart was pretty good.
Oh, Anna Earhart, yeah, we saw Anna Earhart in a tiny venue in Brighton. And that was a great gig.
These people look like a bunch of angels. I watch them float above the pavement. I can almost hear them singing, looking good, dressed in white linen. I followed them across the street, 'cause I got caught in their tropical breeze. Oh my God, this family is hot. They really seem to be living the dream.
I'm sure there's more.
I'm not joking.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think. God, how many times have we seen Holiday Ghosts? They're always great.
Yeah.
Nothing was forgiven in the end, and now the sick mind to take the blade across the line. Don't hope for another big money plan to infect your head. While the city's a smoke,
Jack.
Jack Kabzor.
Kabzoa. I mean, must have seen Kabzoa about 6 or 7 times as well,
very
and
good,
he's
yeah.
always good.
He's
and
someone we collaborated with.
From the skylight, I see all bright as lights, homesick little kid. Decisions that I did, whispering notes, dedicating every word.
And his sister Lily, who's also was the other half of Penelope Ours, has a new project called My Precious Bunny, which is great.
Swing beside around the love. The pieces wouldn't gel. Thought it was love in 100 times. Remember the time we spent my wheels around.
We saw their second gig, and then we saw a more recent gig in Alphabet just before Christmas. And I'm hopeful of great things from her, but she basically has to tour manage bands to make a living.
Yeah, that's the trick is finding the space to find who you are artistically.
And keep going.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, especially at the beginning.
Yeah. Well, yeah, even as it goes on, I mean,
they have a record label at least that kind of, I don't know, supports them.
Yeah. I mean, Kabzoa Jack. I mean, basically, he's playing in CMAT. That's how he's making his living, and CMAT just went stellar. It's not really our thing, but Jack is he's a good sort, and he's thrown himself into it. So and they're doing really well. He survives really well off it, I'm sure.
Well, speaking of good sorts and great players, I've been looking for an excuse to mention Matt Schultz, who has been drumming with you, who I met. Tokyo Police Club's first American tour was opening for the band Enon, and Matt was drumming in Enon.
Oh, yeah, I remember you
So
mentioned
I haven't seen him
he remembers
since
you
then,
as well.
but I remember he was such a good guy and such an incredible drummer, and so it was a real beautiful moment of collision, seeing that he's with you now.
He's still both things. He is amazing. And he's so up for doing stuff, which is great.
Yeah, I mean, in some ways, half that stuff on What the Fuck wouldn't exist if it wasn't for Matt. Matt just kind of suddenly announces he's coming over, and can we book a studio and go and do some recording? And
he's on tour with another band, and he can join us in London when we play, which was a couple of months ago.
Yeah, we played the London show with him. Just he finished a tour with Les Savy Fav. I don't know how to say that. It's not a band I know very well, but in Glasgow, got a plane down to Gatwick, and we were driving from Coventry. We passed en route Gatwick on the way to Brighton, picked him up, went and rehearsed on the Sunday, and then he stayed the night with us, and then the next day we went up to London, played a show, drove home, and then he just went to the airport first thing in the morning and flew back home.
He's crazy, but
he is crazy.
We're grateful for
Well,
it.
Yeah, we are grateful for
the
it.
music industry is rife with people like that whose name isn't necessarily known to many, whose their name isn't on the front of the records. They're not the star, but they're out there and they love doing it and they keep doing it and they facilitate so much great music. And that's just, I guess this is our opportunity to salute them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, you summed up Matt Schultz. That's what.
Yeah, it does. Well, there's obviously. You live in the same city as Graham lives. 2 Grahams in the same city.
Holy fuck! Yeah.
Yes, and they've got a new album.
Yeah, I
coming
just
out.
saw him DJ in December, and I need to send a photograph of my cats because his daughter does pet art commissions, and so I'm going to hire her. We have 2 cats.
Oh, I'm jealous.
Oh, they're wonderful.
I love cats. We had a cat and then we lost him, and we never got another one, but I'm still intending to get cats.
Malka's looking at me right now.
Yeah, like
That's my wife and I don't collaborate on music, but we do collaborate on the cats.
that's a great collaboration.
It is a great collaboration. I think it's paying great dividends. There are many kinds of art and self-expression in this world.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
I mean, once you get to know a cat and you connect, it's just, yeah, it's a special connection.
I try not to talk too much about it publicly because I do think I start to sound a bit nuts. But yeah, there's a real magic there. Well, listen, guys, it's been an hour and 40 minutes. I am so grateful to you. Again, you've been so generous, not just with your time, but with your brains. It's really encouraging and inspiring to me. I just on a personal level, I can't thank you enough, both for talking about it, but for doing it.
Well, thank you.
Thank
I mean,
you.
we just do what we do and we just chat about it. That's kind of what we do. And
we appreciate because you definitely get it because you've been there and done it and you know what it's like.
And so we're able to talk with ease and authority because the person we're talking to is kind of listening and understands what we're talking about. And that's not always the case when we do interviews.
No, indeed. I've done my share of interviews as well. And well, it's also, I'm post my band and I'm in this sort of moment in between trying to figure out what I'm going to do next artistically and also career-wise. And, it can be very discouraging looking at the landscape right now. And, having been in a successful band, you realize very quickly it doesn't mean that you get to go out and pick up that exact same amount of success when you hang out your own shingle.
I mean, don't you enjoy just making music?
Well, I wish I enjoyed it more right now. Some days I do, but some days I can't get out of my own way, and all of the bullshit that we've been talking about that's extraneous to art, but part of the commerce of it. It's like poison in your, in your spirit. And talking to you guys,
feel poisoned as well.
Talking to you guys is like an anti-venom.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah. Let's keep each other clean.
Yeah, it's.
Amen.
Sometimes it's good to have a kind of like be a bit moronic, basically. Just not imagine that you know anything about anything. And just kind of go for
like in the beginning.
I don't know. It's hard to really. You can't really sum it up in words. And I mean, I think the thing we struggle most with is actually text, and it's really hard to come up with words sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Because in the end, it's about keeping yourself not too clever.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, you said something the first time we spoke, Malka, that really stuck with me, where you said, I found a way to keep purity by never learning anything. And from talking
Colin
to
gets
you...
very annoyed.
Yeah, I get quite annoyed with her about that.
Because sometimes he said, play a B. And I'm, what's a fucking B? I have no idea.
Yeah, it's all very well not
I can use my ears.
Yeah, I know you can use your ears, but sometimes, it would help if that note is going to fit and that other note isn't going to fit. So
well, it's all theory.
It's not just theory.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, I'm not exactly. I mean, I have.
He's got a chart.
I've got a chart of piano triads stuck up on the wall in the studio.
Useful.
Which I just use all of the time because I can't really play keyboards in a sort of proper sense. But I like doing chords. Chords is a big thing for me. I really like chords, and so just knowing what the chords I'm playing and then getting some idea about what notes go with what notes.
I guess it's good because we tend to fall into a pattern of always repeating, and maybe if you have a chart, you can find different combinations. But
yeah,
I never look at the chart. But yeah.
Yeah, what can you do?
What can you do? Well, whatever you are doing, the new Immersion record, what the fuck, ? Sounds so vital and so engaged and alive and contemporary and of this moment and important in this moment. And it's great to listen to. It's great to think about. It's inspiring. And I both congratulate you on it and thank you for it.
Thank you.
Well, thank you.
And let me ask you our ceremonial last question. We consider it to be the real getting to the heart of art and commerce, which of course is, well, you were in your home studio making what the fuck. What were you eating? What fine breads were you dining on in Brighton?
In the studio, we don't actually eat in the studio.
Ooh, professionals.
Oh, yeah.
More, we
Makes
live.
a bit smelly.
The studio is part of the house, so all we have to do is walk across the courtyard, and we are in our kitchen.
Oh, how lovely.
Then we can eat. So, but we ate all sorts of stuff. Every night is something different, I
Yeah,
guess.
Malka is, amongst other things, she is also a great cook. And we do eat out occasionally because Brighton has great restaurants, but, you know, we don't survive on eating out. We mainly eat at home. And, yeah, we're vegetarian, although we do eat fish.
Same.
That's not vegetarian then.
No, it's not. Yeah,
Pescatarian. My wife always corrects me on that as well.
Yeah, we are pescatarian. I mean, I think it's more like it's. There are some situations. I mean, we were in Japan a couple of years ago, and I think you can't really survive as a pure vegetarian there.
No.
Yeah, I think you have to eat a bit of fish, but we don't eat meat. So that, but otherwise, we try to aim for a fairly healthy diet and exercise, and you know.
How do you handle being on the road? Because I always found it now I didn't put in a lot of effort, but I found it difficult to eat healthfully at all on the road. And the older you get, the more important it seems to become to sustain yourself.
Also, like you keep like eating things you wouldn't eat, like not very healthy snacks while you're bored in a van or whatever.
And they're cheaper.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and sometimes, especially touring in America, just like a Waffle House at 2:00 in the morning. It's a great experience, you know. Nobody should be denied to have that experience,
kind of way,
but it is definitely not. It's not a lifestyle choice to be doing that all the time.
Physicians do not recommend.
Yeah, the thing about it is that we don't do enormous tours, and I don't think we ever will do enormous tours. So being on the road is just it's not the main thing we do in our life. So we can say, okay, you're going to do this that's a bit unhealthy now, but then when we get home, we'll be more healthy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's on our farewell tour. I elected, despite my advanced age, to just indulge myself completely in all my favorite tour consumption habits because it was the last one. And so I could go home and recuperate. Yeah. And I had to.
Because you have a lot of choice.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, touring is I like to indulge on things that I don't normally do. Maybe not get into detail, but
we've all enjoyed our tours.
Yeah.
Well, next time you tour through Toronto, if and when it happens, I will look forward to hopefully getting to meet face to face. Or if I tour through Brighton.
That will be a delight. And it'd be great. I mean, we'd love to come to Toronto at some point. It's in the right country.
It's in the right country, exactly. Come tour Canada, not in the winter.
Well, come to Brighton.
Yeah, do come to Brighton.
I must. I'll get a band together. I'll make a tour. I'll come to Brighton. Life will be good.
See, now you have a motivation.
Yeah. But you have to give yourself time to have a night out at Alphabet in the bar with us.
Colin Newman, Malka Spigel of Wire, Minimal Compact, Githead, Immersion, the Swimming in Sound weekly radio show, and just of being good people living a real life. You either agree with me or you think we're all crazy, in which case I don't know what you're listening for. Maybe it's because you're my parents. Hi, guys. I find it so inspiring. I think I say this probably too often on the pod at this point, but it's easy to feel despondent about the possibility of living as an artist or as a creative person nowadays. There's not a lot of money in it. There's not a lot of demand for what all of us are churning out. And that coupled with the sort of increasing elusiveness of like security and stability and money, it really makes it feel like, I'm living this myself right now, post Tokyo Police Club. It really makes it feel like I guess I have to put the art and the making of the songs and stuff that has been like the whole driving force of my life to date. I guess I put that in a little box and I put that over here and then I go get like a job. And that's okay. I had a good run of like not working for a living, so it's all right to work for a living, but it's A world where it's so hard to make art and have like the time and space to make art is not a good world to my eyes, to my mind. And so every time we talk to someone here like Colin and Malka who have carved out like a real meaningful niche where they can create and live well and with meaning, it's just like a little victory for something that really is important to me. And I left that conversation with Colin and Malka feeling hopeful and inspired. And of course, so grateful to them for the wonderful conversation, of course, for coming back on MLD a second time, as well as just for like making great records and having a great radio show and being real and living a real nourished life. You know, that's what it feels like to me. Check out Swimming in Sound at swimminginsound.com. That's their weekly radio show. ImmersionHQ.uk is the website for their band Immersion. As of press time, they only got a couple gigs in the hopper that I can see, but they're making records and they're touring all the time. So there's always more to come from Colin and Malka and Immersion, and probably more. I will be keeping an eye on it, and I'm sure you will be too. And I salute Josh Hook, producer of Major Label Debut, John Paul Bullock, producer of Major Label Debut. They make the show. That's why there's a show. It's because of those two guys. There's theme music because of Greg Alsop. He wrote it, recorded it, put it all together. That's a one-man show. Greg, we love you. My name's Graham. Check us out on social media, on whatever the internet is connecting podcasts with people now. Go to that and press the buttons that help us continue to make the podcast. Just our little slice, our little niche in the increasingly crowded podcast marketplace. And we're so grateful to you for being here with us. As always, there's way more cool stuff to come from MLD. Keep it tuned to this podcast feed and take it easy out there. Stay safe, stay cool, keep your eye on the prize, provided that for you the prize is something real and not something fake or evil. No fake or evil people listening to this podcast. I'm not afraid to say it now at the very end of the show. If you're fake or evil, get out of here. That's enough out of you. But the rest of us will all be here partying for many episodes to come. That's Major Label Debut for this week. But we will, of course, return with more tales and banter from the intersection of art and commerce. So long.